Welcome to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast with Jacob Ayers, providing actionable content to help you along your journey to financial freedom through real estate investing. As the premier asset class, real estate has helped ordinary people just like you amass fortunes. The benefits of passive income from real estate investing will allow you to live a life you want. And now your host, entrepreneur, real estate investor, and apartment deal syndicator, Jacob Ayers.
All right, today I welcome on the show, Adam Adams. Adam, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate that.
Hey, it's our pleasure. Well, Adam, can you tell the audience a little about yourself and how you got started investing in real estate?
Yeah, so I was in college and doing all sorts of random different things. I think I took the longest to graduate with a 2-year degree than any other person in human history. So I thought that I would do commercial construction. I thought I'd do music education. I thought I'd do real estate. I thought I'd do business management. I thought I'd do entrepreneurship. I thought I'd do accounting. I switched, and most of those credits didn't count for everything. They only counted for something if I would have stuck to it. But just like any other real entrepreneur, I chase shiny objects. I get excited about different things, and then something dies and I don't want to do it anymore. So I remember when I was in college thinking I was going to be a band director, a junior high band director. I was talking to my dad, and at the time I was bartending, making more than a band director starts out salary. And I was talking to my dad, like, I don't know if I want to do this. And he said, well, have you ever thought about real estate? So my dad and I got together, and with using his money, he bought a tax deed for me. We wrote some letters, and it was his money, but it was my property, if that makes any sense. So my very first creative real estate deal, my no money down deal, but it wasn't that expensive anyway. It cost about $100, and I sold it 2 years later for $12,000.
Wow. Well, let's dig into that and tell us, the audience,
Sure.
exactly what is a tax deed?
A tax deed, it is hard to explain in a very short time, but you're basically getting a deed to a property. That means you actually own the property outright. But a warranty deed would basically prove that there's no other liens or encumbrances. A tax deed is something that only the county or city or whatever municipality, usually it's a county, can sell you or give you. So basically, I own the property, I own the deed to the property, but it might have some liens or a clouded title. Sure. And it's because somebody stopped paying their taxes. So the municipality says, I need to pay my teachers, I need to pay my firemen, I need to pay, the police department. So I got to collect this money or else the city's going to go down. So sometimes they issue a lien against the property for an investor at a certain interest rate, and other times they sell the deed. In this case, we bought the deed.
Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, what was next after that tax deed?
The next thing after the tax deed was I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and learned that I wanted to be a multifamily investor. I thought that was the smartest thing, and I didn't want to have to try to buy houses before I went to multifamily. So in 2008, I went straight in and I purchased let me back up a tiny bit. Before I bought my own property, my own apartment complex, I decided, or I thought that I needed to manage. I was like, I got to learn how to do this first. So I learned how to manage properties by being a property manager. So in Utah, where I was at the time, there's some laws on how you can get into property management. So for me, the way that I knew that I could do it was by calling somebody who had a complex and ask him if I could be their property manager. So I called and called and called. I probably got 25 no's or so. And then I called somebody. He goes, yeah, I'm looking for that. So I started managing this guy named Reed Quinn. I managed his 18-plex. I did so well, he gave me his 4-plex to manage at a condo. And in about 1 year, we turned that $2 million 18-plex into $4 million. He taught me how to reposition an apartment building and taught me what it meant to that. Single families are priced based on comparable sales, and apartments are priced based on comparable rents. So we made the income of this property so much that it doubled in value in about 1 year. So I wish that I could say that I got a part of that $2 million profit, but I didn't get any of that.
Awesome.
I just learned.
So you knew you wanted to get into the multifamily space, and you thought the way to get there was starting your own property management or building that property management experience. So you do that, and you were quite successful at it. So what was next for you after that?
So I purchased my small multifamily in Orem, Utah. I basically had some money, but I didn't have 10 or 20%. But I was making decent funds. That property was high threes, 379, I think I paid for it. So I didn't have 80 grand sitting around. I spent too much money at the time as a young kid making good money as I was doing handyman stuff, but I had like 13 employees and we were making 20 grand a month net after. And I just found a way to spend it all. I don't know how, but so I didn't have the down payment, but I had a great income and a really, really good credit score at the time. And so I went to the first bank and I said, I need to qualify for this loan. And what do you got for me? And this was at the end of 2008. They had just gotten rid of stated loans. They had just stopped being able to lend to people that had started a business less than 2 years of tax history. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm relentless. So I asked every bank over and over and over, and they all said no. They all said, like we're going through a crisis right now and we can't do this type of stuff anymore. So I talked to a friend of mine at the time and basically got him to pay for the entire property cash and make a loan for me. So I basically did an owner finance deal. That was my first creative real estate deal with a multifamily property.
And how many units was that?
3.
Okay. Awesome. So one thing I want to dig in there, what you said is you were relentless in your approach to try to find financing for this. And I think that quality is very important takeaway from this conversation. And as real estate investors, you've kind of got to get some tough skin, thick skin, because you get rejection a lot. You hear a lot of no's. So you've got to be able to weather those no's and try to eventually find a way to make it work like you did. So you eventually found an all cash partner buyer for this property. So yeah, really good takeaway there. And I just want to make sure that the audience members kind of take that little nugget away. So
great. Yeah.
So what do your current projects look like?
So we right now last year, we closed on 3 small multifamilies, 3, 4, and a 5-plex. And this year, I think we closed in January. It was more recently than that, but we closed on a 16-plex that we had under contract that was supposed to close in January. But it was a little bit tough. Me and a few partners did a syndication for a 16-plex.
Okay. So you do that first triplex with your friends, all cash money. Then you do a couple 3, 4, 5 unit deals, and then jump up to this 16 units. So tell us what's kind of going through your mind and what your goals are when you're trying to scale up to these larger properties and how you're able to take them down.
Okay. Yeah. So how are we able to take them down is by syndicating it. So we offer a service or a value by managing the property, having a team in place, having some credibility, a little bit of money, a little bit of time. And then we bring on a few investors. That first syndication had, I think, 6 or 7 investors at around 60 grand each was the raise. I think we raised something like 270,000, and it took us like 6 or 7 investors at, maybe it was less than that if you guys do the math, but that part's not the important part. This last one is more close to about 75 or 80,000. We did a raise for an 83 unit of 1.3. So we probably have somewhere close to 15 to 18 investors on that one. The money as of today should be finally raised, and we closed this Friday.
So what kind of advice do you have for someone out there that's maybe in this small multifamily space, has 2, 3, 4 kind of unit properties under their belt and is really looking to go to that next level?
Great. I think there's a couple of things that would be of huge benefit. The first one is not to be afraid to partner. I think that's a huge one. So partnering up with other people. And that's something that anybody, like, I assume that that's one of the things that you might say as well, is you might not have all the money, right?
Sure. Right.
You might not have all the time. You might not be an engineer like you and who's smart enough to look at the numbers. You might not be able to show a huge bank account. And I say that is different from having the money to put down, because in multifamily, to qualify for a loan, they need somebody to show a bank account. That person doesn't need to use the money, and they need other people to put the money. So you have to have a net worth to qualify, and you also have to have money to qualify, but those don't have to be the same person. So partnering up is something that I think a lot of people would look at as scary. Do I trust them? Do I have to vet them? And they go into it so much that they end up shooting themselves in the foot and not doing anything. So if your listeners are wanting to get into a 16-plex or a 83-plex or whatever, I think they have to be open-minded to partnering up with strategic partners who can add the value to where they don't have the value.
Yeah. Okay. We've touched on, you need to partner with net worth, with the capital, but these kind of intrinsic qualities, what are you looking for in terms of your partners there?
Okay. Number one is that we get along.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
The first thing that matters is if you don't start off getting along, things with any partnership can get stressful. And I don't know if these are going to get stressful, but if I was partnering up with people just because they had money, or just because they had time, or just because they had a network of people, I think that's the first mistake. So making sure we get along is important. Other things that I look at, most of my partners, most of them have asked me if they could work with me. And that's because of a meetup group that I have, and it has been running for some time. And that meetup group is very successful in the area. And I'm always in front of people, kind of seen as the leader of this community. And I try my hardest to be honest, ethical, and lead with value. And that's kind of helped other people come to me and say, Adam, you're really bad at social media. You think you're good at it, but I can fix all of your problems if you give me a slice of the pie. And I say, let's sit down and see, like, if that really makes sense. And somebody else would go, Adam, you think you're so smart. You think you could have been an engineer if you did more than a 2-year degree. But I'm way better at analyzing these properties than you. Would you look at it if you and I could partner and I could do the things you're bad at? So sometimes I look at the person and it takes months or even a year or more to decide to say, okay, let's do it. And sometimes I say, you're right. I'm really bad with social media. I think I'm good. And what you're doing is a lot better. So let's partner up. So.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. Well, that's one thing I want to dig in here, Adam, is you've got a unique experience with these meetup groups. You've actually are like Meetup headquarters sponsored, like platinum level, super experienced Meetup host. So tell us about that.
Sure. I am not an engineer. I'm a reverse engineer. I look at what somebody's doing. And I've always been really, really good at finding faults into everything, and not in a negative way. In a, what if they tried this? What if they tweaked this? This would fix better. Or other people come in and they're like, this is the important part. This is the part for the audience right now. I need to go to more meetups. because I want to blah, blah, blah. So my thought is like, why would I want to go to all the meetups? Like, what is that going to do for me? If I just go to other people's meetups, I'll look like 100 other people that are there being at a meetup. It will change if I start a meetup. So I started doing that, and somehow I look at everything people are doing, and I only take the good things, and I get rid of everything else, and I keep looking at what everyone's doing. And the second part is that I try things. I'm not afraid to like make a mistake, right? I think that is good for anybody getting involved into something. Is fear usually just stops people in their tracks. So if you just are willing to put out an email and see if it works, instead of like ask a million people, do you think this will work? And 2 people say no, so you just don't put it out. You have to just be able to try things. So I started doing that. I feel like I'm rambling, but this is getting somewhere, because if you're the type of person who's going to be willing to try all sorts of techniques, look at everybody's stuff and get rid of the things that you don't like, and over time it will do something for you. Whereas I'll go back to what you said right now, I've got 7 meetup groups, and the lunch club, it's called Creative Real Estate Lunch Club of Metro Denver, and it meets at noon on a Thursday. When I started that, I thought, you know what, I'll probably be able to get like 10, 20, maybe even 30 people. Like, I'm going to do everything I got, because this is at lunch, so obviously everybody's working, but I'm going to prove to myself that I can do what I'm saying I'm going to do. I'm going to have 30 people come to this meeting. And we've had not a single one in the last several months, and we meet every week on Thursday. Not one of them's been less than 40 in several months. Many of them have been more than 60, and some of them have been over 100, and the biggest one is 176 people in the middle of the day at lunch. So
yeah, awesome. Wow, that's really impressive. And I want to dig into this. I want to really kind of pull out what you're getting out of these meetups. So, as an engineer, I kind of find myself sometimes buried in the numbers and kind of in the weeds of it. And sometimes I really feel like I need to pull out and do a better job at networking and building relationships. And I think you're really getting a lot on that aspect from me. Can you talk about how that's helped you out in your personal real estate investing journey?
Absolutely. As far as the networking, I want to touch on something before I finish answering your question. As far as the networking, if you're going to have your own meetup and network, it's more important. And I'm saying this to any of the audience members who are thinking about starting a meetup. It's more important that your meetup puts your network with the biggest names in your area. So then it is to worry about like all of the attendees. So the rule number 1, by reverse engineering this and thinking of the best outcome first, is you need to find all the best meetup organizers out there, and you basically invite them to your meetup. They're presenting, you're shoulder to shoulder, and everybody in front of you is seeing what's happening. So anyway, if somebody in your audience is going to start their own meetup group, they should focus less on like my attendees coming and focus more on the positioning side of it. But what it's done for me, your question is, what has it done for me? I mean, I've been invited, like you alluded to Meetup headquarters in New York City to present for, they took their 150 top organizers from 8 different countries around the world and pulled them all to one place at one time. Me personally, they paid for part of the flight. Most of the flight cost me less than $200 to get out there. They paid for food, alcohol, the hotel. The hotel was like $300 plus a night, $350, $340 a night for, I think it was 3 nights. And that's one of the cool things that it did for me is I got that little experience and got to meet people from India and Ireland and Australia, and kind of was able to ask them different things. And other things that it's done is like this next week, there's somebody who's positioned themselves really, really well in Colorado besides me, and they have recently purchased this the biggest real estate investing association in the state.
Oh, wow.
And so he's inviting me to go, to his office on Monday or Tuesday. I'll have to look, but early next week, and that kind of stuff just wouldn't have ever happened if I wasn't a leader of a group. And other things is, for me, I've met partners, I've met friends, and I've raised so far through that group for fix and flips that I did like the last year and a half, and as well as all three of those small multifamily that I bought no money out of pocket. I had a private investor purchase them for 100% financing because we bought them at a good deal. So, I mean, I've raised with my partners now multi-millions of dollars because we run a couple little groups like that. People see you as a leader. They know, they assume that you're going to be more honest and ethical than a fly-by-night, somebody who's just coming and going. And so it's allowed me to attract a lot of private money as well.
Yeah, awesome. Well, that's really cool stuff, Adam. Well, hey, you are no stranger to creative financing yourself. So could you give us one of your more creative deals you've done in the past?
Okay, sure. Well, there was that first triplex that I got a partner to go in, pay for everything and basically just give me a mortgage. So that was a no money out of pocket. The very, very first deal was $100 down, and then my dad paid that, and I sold it for $12,000. I kept all the profits. I almost feel bad. I should have given him at least his $100 back, right? Other things that I've done, I've helped a lot of people through creative strategies to basically do a loan modification on their properties. So I didn't make money. You're not allowed to do that, but I feel really, really good that I was able to communicate with the bank and find a way for the loan to be modified so that they could stay in their house. I mean, both these last two syndications, raising well over $1 million on the last one, was a very creative strategy. Again, I was no money out of pocket, and we bought a $4 million property. I mean, they keep going because like everything that I've ever done, I've always either had a strategic partner that had the money, or I did seller carry, owner finance, or like the BRRRR strategy, just buying it, getting it fixed up, and then refinancing. But I don't usually use a bank myself. I usually refinance it with private money. I can generally, especially with these better cash flow properties, you can usually offer a great incentive to a partner or a person to be a bank for you. They will just basically have a deed of trust and a mortgage promissory note against the property, and you just give them some certain amount of interest that literally makes sense for them.
Yeah, awesome. Well, you allude to it, but there are just so many different ways you can do creative financing in real estate, and you're out there proving it with all these different strategies. So really awesome. You're building your portfolio, growing, building these meetups, networking, and just out there really doing a lot of stuff. So kind of take us back and tell us about what your future goals are and why you're doing what you're doing.
Great. I've got two kids. One of my future goals, one of them is to make sure that the kids are always taken care of. They have what they need and that they work hard. So that's a goal. And I feel like, and I argue with some people about this, and that's okay. I feel like if I work really, really hard now, then I'm going to be retired and I spend tons and tons of time. And other people have said, well, now is the most important time for the kids. Now is when you need to spend all of the time with them. But I see that and I say, well, if I just spend the next 2 years, they're still going to be young, and I'll do whatever I want. I won't ever have to like talk about it. I won't work another day. So it's like, we'll basically work 700 days as hard as you can, and then you've got like thousands and thousands and thousands of days. So that's one goal. Other goals, I mean, we plan to have 10,000 doors in the next 5 years. That'll be just plenty of income for us. We plan to just basically change the way the world thinks about real estate. So I've even got a podcast like you, but it's just about creative real estate. It's just about trying to show people how to think outside the box and be able to do whatever they want to do by not doing what everybody else is doing. So we're showing the 1% so that they don't do what the 99% do. So changing the world, leaving a legacy, making sure my kids are happy, and being financially free, those 4 things.
Yeah, I love it. Well, Adam, as we're wrapping up here, we've got a lightning round, just a series of questions we'd like to fire at you, and you just answer from the hip.
Great.
Okay. The first question we've got is, what was your biggest hurdle getting started investing in real estate, and how'd you overcome it?
Biggest hurdle getting started investing in real estate was limiting beliefs, myself, or the thought process that the banks were going to be right. So whatever it was, whatever the real hurdle is, and I think other people be like that, it's yourself. I believe it was myself, and I overcame it by just trying to think outside the box, just saying, all right, I'm passionate about this, so I'm not going to let there be anything else that stops me.
I love it. Well, Adam, do you have a personal habit that contributes to your success?
Not really a personal habit. I do kind of have a habit of being optimistic about things. I have a habit of trying to see the potential instead of seeing the problem. Yeah, that's about it. Just I have a personal habit of believing I can do it.
I love it. Well, do you have an online resource that you find valuable?
Yeah, obviously we talked a little bit about Meetup.com. That's the main one that kind of comes to me. It's valuable to anybody. Like, you can go to other people's meetups and still have a lot of success. In my case, starting a meetup was really, really valuable for me.
Awesome. I love it. Well, Adam, what book do you recommend to the listeners and why?
Okay. Well, so I've got actually 2, if that's okay. One is
Yes.
Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it's because it is one of the helping tools that allowed me to not have those limiting beliefs. So reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad changes your mindset about things. And I believe that if somebody hasn't read it, a lot of your audience members obviously have, but if you haven't, you really should. And the other one that I was going to say that is next on the list is Gary V's Crushing It. And a big reason why I say that is because he's talking a lot about leading with value. He's talking a lot about what you're doing on social media. So social media is always changing. And right now, today, as we sit here, I think that people should be picking up Gary V's Crushing It and read the entire thing probably 2 times and change a lot of their strategies to more of a give than a sell, and also more of a content is king instead of cash is king.
Yeah, okay. I love it. Well, that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. So many people have read it, and those that haven't, certainly pick it up. And then that's Crushing It by Gary Vaynerchuk, or Gary V as he's referred to. We'll link both of those books in the show notes for our audience to pick up. Adam, very last question for you. If you were to give advice to your 20-year-old self to get started investing in real estate, what would that be?
I would basically say 2008 is not the time to stop buying.
Okay.
So, but hey, I know it now, and when we hit our next one, I'll pick up more than sell more. But yeah, I stopped purchasing property. I bought one at the end of 2008, and I kind of stopped because I didn't know what was going on with the market. So, if I would have had a crystal ball, I would have been a lot better off.
Yeah, awesome. All right, Adam. Well, as we're wrapping up here, you've provided us with a lot of unique information, some creative financing strategies. If our guests want to continue this conversation, reach out to you, or learn more about you, where's the best place for them to do so?
Oh, geez, I wish I could just give you my link tree if they want to do all those things. If they want to hear the podcast, they can just go to real estate blue, the color, and spruce, the tree, realbluespruce.com. That'll bring you to our podcast about creative real estate. If they want to come to one of the meetups and see what the most popular meetup in Colorado is like, they can go to meetup.com/bluespruce. And I actually have a giveaway if you'd let me give your audience something.
Hey, we'd appreciate that.
Okay, so I have the top 6 things that have changed my meetup group and my network, obviously my net worth as well. So if other people want to get involved in growing a meetup that they already have, I've got 6 out-of-box strategies, and they can get it for free. They just need to text the word Meetup, MEETUP, to 555-888. So just text Meetup to 555-888, and you can download that for free.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that, Adam. That's realbluespruce.com. And for meetups in the Denver area, that's meetup.com/bluespruce. And for those top 6 things to change your meetup, text 555-888, the word Meetup. So Adam, thanks so much for coming on. We look forward to reaching out to you again in the future and hopefully continuing this conversation.
Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom podcast, providing you actionable content to build your real estate empire. Nothing on this show should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for personal advice. The opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have a potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of the Real Estate Way to Wealth and Freedom, LLC, exclusively.